How Dorothy saved the Scarecrow.
Как Дороти спасла Страшилу.
How Dorothy saved the Scarecrow. When Dorothy was left alone.
Когда Дороти осталась одна.
When Dorothy was left alone. She began to feel hungry.
Она почувствовала голод.
She began to feel hungry. So she went to the cupboard.
Поэтому она подошла к шкафу.
So she went to the cupboard. And cut herself some bread.
И нарезала себе хлеб.
And cut herself some bread. Which she spread with butter.
Который намазала маслом.
Which she spread with butter. She gave some to Toto.
Она дала немного Татошке.
She gave some to Toto. And taking a pail from the shelf.
И, взяв ведро с полки.
And taking a pail from the shelf. She carried it down to the little brook.
Понесла его к ручью.
She carried it down to the little brook. And filled it with clear, sparkling water.
И наполнила чистой, искрящейся водой.
And filled it with clear, sparkling water. Toto ran over to the trees.
Татошка побежал к деревьям.
Toto ran over to the trees. And began to bark at the birds sitting there.
И начал лаять на сидящих там птиц.
And began to bark at the birds sitting there. Dorothy went to get him.
Дороти пошла за ним.
Dorothy went to get him. And saw such delicious fruit.
И увидев восхитительные фрукты.
And saw such delicious fruit. Hanging from the branches.
Свисающие с веток.
Hanging from the branches. That she gathered some of it.
Что она собрала немного из них.
That she gathered some of it. Finding it just what.
Обнаружив, что это именно то.
Finding it just what. She wanted to help out her breakfast.
Что ей нужно, чтобы позавтракать.
She wanted to help out her breakfast. Then she went back to the house.
Затем она вернулась в дом.
Then she went back to the house. And having helped herself and Toto.
И, выпив сама и напоив Татошку.
And having helped herself and Toto. To a good drink of the cool, clear water.
Хорошей, прохладной чистой водой.
To a good drink of the cool, clear water. She set about making ready for the journey to the city of emeralds.
Стала готовиться в путь к изумрудному городу.
She set about making ready for the journey to the city of emeralds. Dorothy had only one other dress.
У Дороти было только одно платье.
Dorothy had only one other dress. But that happened to be clean.
И оно оказалось чистым.
But that happened to be clean. And was hanging on a peg beside her bed.
И висела на вешалке возле ее кровати.
And was hanging on a peg beside her bed. It was gingham, with checks of white and blue.
Ткань была в бело-синюю клетку.
It was gingham, with checks of white and blue. And although the blue was somewhat faded with many washings.
И хотя синий цвет несколько потускнел после многих стирок.
And although the blue was somewhat faded with many washings. It was still a pretty frock.
Платье все равно оставалось красивым.
It was still a pretty frock. The girl washed herself carefully.
Девушка тщательно умылась.
The girl washed herself carefully. Dressed herself in the clean gingham.
Одела чистое платье.
Dressed herself in the clean gingham. And tied her pink sunbonnet on her head.
И повязала розовый чепчик на голове.
And tied her pink sunbonnet on her head. She took a little basket.
Она взяла небольшую корзину.
She took a little basket. And filled it with bread from the cupboard.
И наполнила ее хлебом из буфета.
And filled it with bread from the cupboard. Laying a white cloth over the top.
Положив поверх нее белую ткань.
Laying a white cloth over the top. Then she looked down at her feet and noticed.
Затем она посмотрела себе под ноги и заметила.
Then she looked down at her feet and noticed how old and worn her shoes were.
Как стары и изношены ее туфли.
How old and worn her shoes were. They surely will never do for a long journée, Toto.
Они точно не годятся для долгого путешествия, Татошка.
They surely will never do for a long journée, Toto. She said.
Сказала она.
She said. And Toto looked up into her face.
И Татошка посмотрел ей в лицо.
And Toto looked up into her face. With his little black eyes.
Своими маленькими черными глазками.
With his little black eyes. And wagged his tail to show.
И завилял хвостом, показывая.
And wagged his tail to show. He knew what she meant.
Что он знает, что она имеет в виду.
He knew what she meant. At that moment Dorothy saw.
В этот момент Дороти увидела.
At that moment Dorothy saw. Lying on the table the silver shoes.
Лежащие на столе серебряные туфли.
Lying on the table the silver shoes. That had belonged to the witch of the east.
Принадлежавшие ведьме Востока.
That had belonged to the witch of the east. I wonder if they will fit me.
Интересно, подойдут ли они мне?
I wonder if they will fit me. She said to Toto.
Сказала она Татошке.
She said to Toto. They would be just the thing to take a long walk in.
В них можно было бы долго гулять.
They would be just the thing to take a long walk in. For they could not wear out.
Потому что они не изнашивались.
For they could not wear out. She took off her old leather shoes.
Она сняла свои старые кожаные туфли.
She took off her old leather shoes. And tried on the silver ones.
И примерила серебряные.
And tried on the silver ones. Which fitted her as well.
Которые подошли ей так же хорошо.
Which fitted her as well. As if they had been made for her.
Как если бы они были сшиты для нее.
As if they had been made for her. Finally she picked up her basket.
Наконец-то она взяла корзину.
Finally she picked up her basket. Come along, Toto.
Пойдем, Татошка.
Come along, Toto. She said.
Сказала она.
She said. We will go to the Emerald City.
Мы пойдем в изумрудный город.
We will go to the Emerald City. And ask the Great Oz.
И спросим у великого Оз.
And ask the Great Oz. How to get back to Kansas again.
Как вернуться в Канзас.
How to get back to Kansas again. She closed the door, locked it.
Она закрыла дверь, заперла ее.
She closed the door, locked it. And put the key carefully in the pocket of her dress.
И осторожно положила ключ в карман платья.
And put the key carefully in the pocket of her dress. And so, with Toto trotting along soberly behind her.
И вот, Татошка поплелся вслед за ней.
And so, with Toto trotting along soberly behind her. She started on her journey.
Она начала свой путь.
She started on her journey. There were several roads nearby.
Поблизости было несколько дорог.
There were several roads nearby. But it did not take her long.
Но ей не потребовалось много времени.
But it did not take her long. To find the one paved with yellow bricks.
Чтобы найти вымощенную желтым кирпичом.
To find the one paved with yellow bricks. Within a short time.
Через короткое время.
Within a short time. She was walking briskly toward the Emerald City.
Она быстро шла к изумрудному городу.
She was walking briskly toward the Emerald City. Her silver shoes tinkling merrily.
Ее серебряные туфли весело звенели.
Her silver shoes tinkling merrily. On the hard, yellow roadbed.
По твердой желтой дороге.
On the hard, yellow roadbed. The sun shone bright.
Ярко светило солнце.
The sun shone bright. And the birds sang sweetly.
Сладко пели птицы.
And the birds sang sweetly. And Dorothy did not feel nearly so bad.
И Дороти чувствовала себя не так плохо.
And Dorothy did not feel nearly so bad. As you might think a little girl would.
Как можно было подумать маленькой девочке?
As you might think a little girl would. Who had been suddenly whisked away from her own country.
Которую внезапно увезли из родной страны.
Who had been suddenly whisked away from her own country. And set down in the midst of a strange land.
И оставили посреди чужой.
And set down in the midst of a strange land. She was surprised, as she walked along.
По дороге она дивилась.
She was surprised, as she walked along. To see how pretty the country was about her.
Насколько прекрасно вокруг нее.
To see how pretty the country was about her. There were neat fences at the sides of the road.
По обочинам дороги стояли аккуратные заборы.
There were neat fences at the sides of the road. Painted a dainty blue color.
Выкрашенные в изящный синий цвет.
Painted a dainty blue color. And beyond them were fields of grain and vegetables in abundance.
А за ними были в изобилии поля с зерном и овощами.
And beyond them were fields of grain and vegetables in abundance. Evidently the Munchkins were good farmers.
Очевидно, живуны были хорошими фермерами.
Evidently the Munchkins were good farmers. And able to raise large crops.
И могли выращивать большие урожаи.
And able to raise large crops. Once in a while she would pass a house.
Время от времени она проходила мимо домов.
Once in a while she would pass a house. And the people came out to look at her.
И люди выходили посмотреть на нее.
And the people came out to look at her. And bow low as she went by.
И низко поклониться, когда она проходила.
And bow low as she went by. For everyone knew.
Поскольку все знали.
For everyone knew. She had been the means of destroying the wicked witch.
Что она была причиной смерти злой ведьмы.
She had been the means of destroying the wicked witch. And setting them free from bondage.
И освобождение их из рабства.
And setting them free from bondage. The houses of the Munchkins were odd-looking dwellings.
Дома живунов выглядели странно.
The houses of the Munchkins were odd-looking dwellings. For each was round, with a big dome for a roof.
Каждый был круглым, с большим куполом вместо крыши.
For each was round, with a big dome for a roof. All were painted blue.
Все были выкрашены в синий цвет.
All were painted blue. For in this country of the East.
Потому что в этой стране Востока.
For in this country of the East. Blue was the favorite color.
Синий был любимым цветом.
Blue was the favorite color. Toward evening.
Ближе к вечеру.
Toward evening. When Dorothy was tired with her long walk.
Когда Дороти устала от долгой прогулки.
When Dorothy was tired with her long walk. And began to wonder where she should pass the night.
И начала гадать, где ей переночевать.
And began to wonder where she should pass the night. She came to a house.
Она подошла к дому.
She came to a house. Rather larger than the rest.
Намного большему, чем остальные.
Rather larger than the rest. On the green lawn.
На зеленой лужайке.
On the green lawn. Before it many men and women were dancing.
Перед ней танцевало много мужчин и женщин.
Before it many men and women were dancing. 5 little fiddlers.
5 маленьких скрипачей.
5 little fiddlers. Played as loudly as possible.
Играли как можно громко.
Played as loudly as possible. And the people were laughing and singing.
А люди смеялись и пели.
And the people were laughing and singing. While a big table nearby.
В то время как большой стол рядом.
While a big table nearby. Was loaded with delicious fruits and nuts.
Был заставлен вкусными фруктами и орехами.
Was loaded with delicious fruits and nuts. Pies and cakes.
Пирогами и тортами.
Pies and cakes. And many other good things to eat.
И множеством других вкусных блюд.
And many other good things to eat. The people greeted Dorothy kindly.
Люди любезно поприветствовали Дороти.
The people greeted Dorothy kindly. And invited her to supper.
Пригласили ее поужинать.
And invited her to supper. And to pass the night with them.
И переночевать у них.
And to pass the night with them. For this was the home of.
Потому что это был дом.
For this was the home of. One of the richest munchkins in the land.
Одного из самых богатых живунов в стране.
One of the richest munchkins in the land. And his friends were gathered with him.
И его друзья собрались вместе с ним.
And his friends were gathered with him. To celebrate their freedom.
Чтобы отпраздновать их свободу.
To celebrate their freedom. From the bondage of the wicked witch.
От рабства злой ведьмы.
From the bondage of the wicked witch. Dorothy ate a hearty supper.
Дороти плотно поужинала.
Dorothy ate a hearty supper. And was waited upon by the rich munchkin himself.
И ей прислуживал сам богатый манчкин.
And was waited upon by the rich munchkin himself. Whose name was Bok.
Которого звали Бог.
Whose name was Bok. Then she sat upon a settee.
Затем она села на диван.
Then she sat upon a settee. And watched the people dance.
И смотрела, как танцуют люди.
And watched the people dance. When Bok saw her silver shoes.
Когда Бог увидел ее серебряные туфли.
When Bok saw her silver shoes. He said.
Он сказал.
He said. You must be a great sorceress.
Ты, должно быть, великая волшебница.
You must be a great sorceress. Why?
Почему?
Why? Asked the girl.
Спросила девушка.
Asked the girl. Because you wear silver shoes.
Потому что ты носишь серебряные туфли.
Because you wear silver shoes. And have killed the wicked witch.
И убила злую ведьму.
And have killed the wicked witch. Besides, you have white in your frock.
Кроме того, у вас белое платье.
Besides, you have white in your frock. And only witches and sorceresses wear white.
А белое носят только ведьмы и колдуньи.
And only witches and sorceresses wear white. My dress is blue and white checked.
Мое платье в бело-голубую клетку.
My dress is blue and white checked. Said Dorothy.
Сказала Дороти.
Said Dorothy. Smoothing out the wrinkles in it.
Разглаживая складки на нем.
Smoothing out the wrinkles in it. It is kind of you to wear that.
Это мило с вашей стороны носить это.
It is kind of you to wear that. Said Bok.
Сказал Бог.
Said Bok. Blue is the color of the munchkins.
Синий – цвет живунов.
Blue is the color of the munchkins. And white is the witch color.
А белый – цвет ведьмы.
And white is the witch color. So we know you are a friendly witch.
Итак, мы знаем, что вы дружелюбная ведьма.
So we know you are a friendly witch. Dorothy did not know what to say to this.
Дороти не знала, что на это ответить.
Dorothy did not know what to say to this. For all the people seemed.
Потому что все люди, казалось,
For all the people seemed. To think her a witch.
считали ее ведьмой.
To think her a witch. And she knew very well.
И она очень хорошо знала.
And she knew very well. She was only an ordinary little girl.
Что она всего лишь обычная маленькая девочка.
She was only an ordinary little girl. Who had come by the chance.
Которая случайно попала.
Who had come by the chance. Of a cyclone into a strange land.
В чужую страну из-за циклона.
Of a cyclone into a strange land. When she had tired watching the dancing.
Когда она устала смотреть на танцы.
When she had tired watching the dancing. Bach led her into the house.
Бог провел ее в дом.
Bach led her into the house. Where he gave her a room.
Где поместил ее в комнату.
Where he gave her a room. With a pretty bed in it.
С красивой кроватью.
With a pretty bed in it. The sheets were made of blue cloth.
Простыни были из голубой ткани.
The sheets were made of blue cloth. And Dorothy slept soundly in them till morning.
И Дороти крепко уснула в них до утра.
And Dorothy slept soundly in them till morning. With Toto curled up.
А Татошка свернулся калачиком.
With Toto curled up. On the blue rug beside her.
На синем коврике рядом с ней.
On the blue rug beside her. She ate a hearty breakfast.
Она плотно позавтракала.
She ate a hearty breakfast. And watched a wee munchkin baby.
И наблюдала за маленьким Манчкином.
And watched a wee munchkin baby. Who played with Toto.
Который играл с Татошкой.
Who played with Toto. And pulled his tail.
Дергал его за хвост.
And pulled his tail. And crowed and laughed.
Кукарекал и смеялся.
And crowed and laughed. In a way that greatly amused Dorothy.
Так, что это очень забавляло Дороти.
In a way that greatly amused Dorothy. Toto was a fine curiosity to all the people.
Татошка вызывал интерес всех людей.
Toto was a fine curiosity to all the people. For they had never seen a dog before.
Потому что они никогда раньше не видели собак.
For they had never seen a dog before. How far is it to the Emerald City?
Как далеко до изумрудного города?
How far is it to the Emerald City? The girl asked.
Спросила девушка.
The girl asked. I do not know.
Не знаю.
I do not know. Answered Bach gravely.
Серьезно ответил Бог.
Answered Bach gravely. For I have never been there.
Потому что я там никогда не был.
For I have never been there. It is better for people to keep away from Oz.
Людям лучше держаться подальше от Оза.
It is better for people to keep away from Oz. Unless they have business with him.
Если у них нет к нему дела.
Unless they have business with him. But it is a long way to the Emerald City.
Но до изумрудного города далеко.
But it is a long way to the Emerald City. And it will take you many days.
И это займет у вас много дней.
And it will take you many days. The country here is rich and pleasant.
Страна здесь богата и приятна.
The country here is rich and pleasant. But you must pass.
Но вы должны пройти.
But you must pass. Through rough and dangerous places.
Через суровые и опасные места.
Through rough and dangerous places. Before you reach the end of your journey.
Прежде чем достигнете конца своего пути.
Before you reach the end of your journey. This worried Dorothy a little.
Это немного обеспокоило Дороти.
This worried Dorothy a little. But she knew that only the great Oz.
Но она знала, что только Великий Оз
But she knew that only the great Oz could help her get to Kansas again.
может помочь ей снова добраться до Канзаса.
Could help her get to Kansas again. So she bravely resolved not to turn back.
Поэтому она смело решила не возвращаться.
So she bravely resolved not to turn back. She bade her friends goodbye.
Она попрощалась с друзьями.
She bade her friends goodbye. And again started along the road of yellow brick.
И снова двинулась по дороге из желтого кирпича.
And again started along the road of yellow brick. When she had gone several miles.
Пройдя несколько миль.
When she had gone several miles. She thought she would stop to rest.
Она подумала, что остановится отдохнуть.
She thought she would stop to rest. And so climbed to the top of the fence.
Поэтому взобралась на верхнюю часть забора.
And so climbed to the top of the fence. Beside the road and sat down.
У дороги и села.
Beside the road and sat down. There was a great cornfield beyond the fence.
За забором было большое кукурузное поле.
There was a great cornfield beyond the fence. And not far away she saw a scarecrow.
И неподалеку она увидела Страшилу.
And not far away she saw a scarecrow. Placed high on a pole.
Высоко посаженного на шест.
Placed high on a pole. To keep the birds from the ripe corn.
Чтобы сохранить спелую кукурузу от птиц.
To keep the birds from the ripe corn. Dorothy leaned her chin upon her hand.
Дороти оперлась подбородком на руку.
Dorothy leaned her chin upon her hand. And gazed thoughtfully at the scarecrow.
И задумчиво посмотрела на Страшилу.
And gazed thoughtfully at the scarecrow. Its head was a small sack.
Его голова представляла собой небольшой мешок.
Its head was a small sack. Stuffed with straw.
Набитый соломой.
Stuffed with straw. With eyes, nose, and mouth painted on it.
С нарисованными глазами, носом и ртом.
With eyes, nose, and mouth painted on it. To represent a face.
Изображающими лицо.
To represent a face. An old, pointed blue hat.
Старая остроконечная синяя шляпа.
An old, pointed blue hat. That had belonged to some munchkin.
Принадлежавшая какому-то манчкину.
That had belonged to some munchkin. Was perched on his head.
Сидела на голове.
Was perched on his head. And the rest of the figure.
А остальная часть фигуры.
And the rest of the figure. Was a blue suit of clothes, worn and faded.
Представляла собой потертый и выцветший синий костюм.
Was a blue suit of clothes, worn and faded. Which had also been stuffed with straw.
Тоже набитый соломой.
Which had also been stuffed with straw. On the feet were some old boots with blue tops.
На ногах были старые сапоги с синими голенищами.
On the feet were some old boots with blue tops. Such as every man wore in this country.
Какие носили все мужчины в этой стране.
Such as every man wore in this country. And the figure was raised above the stalks of corn.
И фигура возвышалась над стеблями кукурузы.
And the figure was raised above the stalks of corn. By means of the pole stuck up its back.
С помощью шеста, торчащего за спиной.
By means of the pole stuck up its back. While Dorothy was looking earnestly.
Пока Дороти серьезно смотрела.
While Dorothy was looking earnestly. Into the queer, painted face of the Scarecrow.
В странно разукрашенное лицо Страшилы.
Into the queer, painted face of the Scarecrow. She was surprised to see.
Она с удивлением заметила.
She was surprised to see. One of the eyes slowly wink at her.
Что один из глаз медленно ей подмигивает.
One of the eyes slowly winked at her. She thought she must have been mistaken at first.
Сначала она подумала, что, возможно, ошиблась.
She thought she must have been mistaken at first. For none of the scarecrows in Kansas ever wink.
Потому что ни одно из чучел в Канзасе никогда не мигало.
For none of the scarecrows in Kansas ever wink. But presently the figure nodded its head to her in a friendly way.
Но вскоре фигура дружелюбно кивнула ей головой.
But presently the figure nodded its head to her in a friendly way. Then she climbed down from the fence.
Затем она слезла с забора.
Then she climbed down from the fence. And walked up to it.
И подошла к нему.
And walked up to it. While Toto ran around the pole and barked.
В то время как Тотошка оббежал столб и лаял.
While Toto ran around the pole and barked. Good day.
Добрый день.
Good day. Said the Scarecrow, in a rather husky voice.
Сказал Страшила хриплым голосом.
Said the Scarecrow, in a rather husky voice. Did you speak?
Ты говоришь?
Did you speak? Asked the girl, in wonder.
Удивленно спросила девушка.
Asked the girl, in wonder. Certainly.
Конечно.
Certainly. Answered the Scarecrow.
Ответил Страшила.
Answered the Scarecrow. How do you do?
Как дела?
How do you do? I'm pretty well, thank you.
Я в порядке, спасибо.
I'm pretty well, thank you. Replied Dorothy politely.
Вежливо ответила Дороти.
Replied Dorothy politely. How do you do?
Как дела?
How do you do? I'm not feeling well.
Я плохо себя чувствую.
I'm not feeling well. Said the Scarecrow, with a smile.
Сказал Страшила с улыбкой.
Said the Scarecrow, with a smile. For it is very tedious being perched up here night and day.
Потому что очень утомительно сидеть здесь днем и ночью.
For it is very tedious being perched up here night and day. To scare away crows.
Чтобы отпугивать ворон.
To scare away crows. Can't you get down?
Ты не можешь спуститься?
Can't you get down? Asked Dorothy.
Спросила Дороти.
Asked Dorothy. No, for this pole is stuck up my back.
Нет, мне за спину воткнули этот шест.
No, for this pole is stuck up my back. If you will please take away the pole.
Если вы снимете меня с шеста.
If you will please take away the pole. I shall be greatly obliged to you.
Я буду вам очень признателен.
I shall be greatly obliged to you. Dorothy reached up both arms.
Дороти подняла обе руки.
Dorothy reached up both arms. And lifted the figure off the pole.
И сняла фигуру со столба.
And lifted the figure off the pole. For, being stuffed with straw.
Потому что, набитая соломой.
For, being stuffed with straw. It was quite light.
Была довольно легкой.
It was quite light. Thank you very much.
Большое спасибо.
Thank you very much. Said the Scarecrow.
Сказал Страшила.
Said the Scarecrow. When he had been set down on the ground.
Когда его посадили на землю.
When he had been set down on the ground. I feel like a new man.
Я чувствую себя новым человеком.
I feel like a new man. Dorothy was puzzled at this.
Дороти это озадачило.
Dorothy was puzzled at this. For it sounded queer to hear.
Потому что было странно слышать.
For it sounded queer to hear. A stuffed man speak.
Как чучело говорит.
A stuffed man speak. And to see him bow.
И видеть, как он кланяется.
And to see him bow. And walk along beside her.
И идет рядом.
And walk along beside her. Who are you?
Кто ты?
Who are you? Asked the Scarecrow.
Спросил Страшила.
Asked the Scarecrow. When he had stretched himself and yawned.
Потянувшись и зевнув.
When he had stretched himself and yawned. And where are you going?
И куда ты идешь?
And where are you going? My name is Dorothy.
Меня зовут Дороти.
My name is Dorothy. Said the girl.
Сказала девушка.
Said the girl. And I am going to the Emerald City.
И я иду в изумрудный город.
And I am going to the Emerald City. To ask the Great Oz.
Чтобы попросить великого Оза.
To ask the Great Oz. To send me back to Kansas.
Отправить меня обратно в Канзас.
To send me back to Kansas. Where is the Emerald City?
Где находится изумрудный город?
Where is the Emerald City? He inquired.
Осведомился он.
He inquired. And who is Oz?
И кто такой Оз?
And who is Oz? Why, don't you know?
Ты не знаешь?
Why, don't you know? She returned, in surprise.
Удивилась она.
She returned, in surprise. No, indeed.
Нет, конечно.
No, indeed. I don't know anything.
Я ничего не знаю.
I don't know anything. You see, I am stuffed.
Понимаете, я чучело.
You see, I am stuffed. So I have no brains at all.
Поэтому у меня совсем нет мозгов.
So I have no brains at all. He answered sadly.
Грустно ответил он.
He answered sadly. Oh, said Dorothy.
Ох, сказала Дороти.
Oh, said Dorothy. I'm awfully sorry for you.
Мне тебя очень жаль.
I'm awfully sorry for you. Do you think?
Как вы думаете?
Do you think? He asked.
Спросил он.
He asked. If I go to the Emerald City with you.
Если я пойду с вами в изумрудный город.
If I go to the Emerald City with you. That Oz would give me some brains?
Оз даст мне немного мозгов.
That Oz would give me some brains? I cannot tell.
Я не могу сказать.
I cannot tell. She returned.
Ответила она.
She returned. But you may come with me, if you like.
Но ты можешь пойти со мной, если хочешь.
But you may come with me, if you like. If Oz will not give you any brains.
Если Оз не даст тебе мозгов.
If Oz will not give you any brains. You will be no worse off than you are now.
Тебе будет не хуже, чем сейчас.
You will be no worse off than you are now. That is true, said the Scarecrow.
Это правда, сказал Страшила.
That is true, said the Scarecrow. You see, he continued confidentially.
Видите ли, продолжил он конфиденциально.
You see, he continued confidentially. I don't mind.
Я не возражаю.
I don't mind. My legs and arms and body being stuffed.
Чтобы мои ноги, руки и тело были набиты соломой.
My legs and arms and body being stuffed. Because I cannot get hurt.
Потому что мне невозможно причинить вред.
Because I cannot get hurt. If anyone treads on my toes.
Если кто-нибудь наступит мне на пальцы ног.
If anyone treads on my toes. Or sticks a pin into me.
Или вонзится в меня булавкой.
Or sticks a pin into me. It doesn't matter, for I can't feel it.
Это не имеет значения, потому что я этого не чувствую.
It doesn't matter, for I can't feel it. But I do not want people to call me a fool.
Но я не хочу, чтобы люди называли меня дураком.
But I do not want people to call me a fool. And if my head stays stuffed with straw.
И если моя голова будет забита соломой.
And if my head stays stuffed with straw. Instead of with brains, as yours is.
А не мозгами, как у вас.
Instead of with brains, as yours is. How am I ever to know anything?
Как мне вообще что-нибудь знать?
How am I ever to know anything? I understand how you feel.
Я понимаю, что ты чувствуешь.
I understand how you feel. Said the little girl.
Сказала маленькая девочка.
Said the little girl. Who was truly sorry for him.
Которой было искренне жаль его.
Who was truly sorry for him. If you will come with me.
Если ты пойдешь со мной.
If you will come with me. I'll ask Oz.
Я попрошу Оза.
I'll ask Oz. To do all he can for you.
Сделать для тебя все, что в его силах.
To do all he can for you. Thank you.
Спасибо.
Thank you. He answered gratefully.
Благодарно ответил он.
He answered gratefully. They walked back to the road.
Они пошли обратно к дороге.
They walked back to the road. Dorothy helped him over the fence.
Дороти помогла ему перелезть через забор.
Dorothy helped him over the fence. And they started along the path of yellow brick.
И они двинулись по тропе из желтого кирпича.
And they started along the path of yellow brick. For the Emerald City.
К изумрудному городу.
For the Emerald City. Toto did not like this addition to the party at first.
Татошке поначалу не понравилось это прибавление к компании.
Toto did not like this addition to the party at first. He smelled around the stuffed man.
Он нюхал вокруг чучела.
He smelled around the stuffed man. As if he suspected.
Как будто подозревал.
As if he suspected. There might be a nest of rats in the straw.
Что в соломе может быть крысиное гнездо?
There might be a nest of rats in the straw. And he often growled in an unfriendly way at the Scarecrow.
И часто недружелюбно рычал на Страшилу.
And he often growled in an unfriendly way at the Scarecrow. Don't mind Toto.
Не обращай внимания на Татошку.
Don't mind Toto. Said Dorothy to her new friend.
Сказала Дороти своему новому другу.
Said Dorothy to her new friend. He never bites.
Он никогда не кусается.
He never bites. Oh, I'm not afraid.
Ох, я не боюсь.
Oh, I'm not afraid. Replied the Scarecrow.
Ответил Страшила.
Replied the Scarecrow. He can't hurt the straw.
Он не может навредить соломе.
He can't hurt the straw. Do let me carry that basket for you.
Позвольте мне нести вашу корзину.
Do let me carry that basket for you. I shall not mind it, for I can't get tired.
Я вовсе не против, потому что я не устаю.
I shall not mind it, for I can't get tired. I'll tell you a secret.
Открою тебе секрет.
I'll tell you a secret. He continued, as he walked along.
Продолжил он, идя дальше.
He continued, as he walked along. There is only one thing in the world.
На свете есть только одна вещь.
There is only one thing in the world. I am afraid of.
Которой я боюсь.
I am afraid of. What is that?
Что это?
What is that? Asked Dorothy.
Спросила Дороти.
Asked Dorothy. The Munchkin farmer who made you?
Манчкин фермер, который тебя сделал?
The Munchkin farmer who made you? No.
Нет.
No. Answered the Scarecrow.
Ответил Страшила.
answered the Scarecrow. It's a lighted match.
Это зажженная спичка.
It's a lighted match.